Now, today's live show is going to be extremely explosive. The reason why is because I'm going to be sharing with you a particular property principle, but side by side with that property principle that I'm going to be sharing with you, we're also in a moment or two going to have the caller number up on the screen with the access code, so you guys can call in and actually ask questions live. Like, as we do this show, the purpose of the live show is to answer your questions. We're in a current climate where a lot of people are challenged right now in terms of property. A lot of people are trying to find out what to do, how to do it, etc., etc. So one of the key things we intend to do throughout the live stream today is answer your questions. We help you move forward by answering your questions, by meeting you at your point of need. One of the biggest issues a lot of the time is people might give content. Even on our channel, for example, we've got content going out, but the reality is, if that content doesn't help you where you're actually at, then, you know, at the end of the day, what is the point of you actually engaging with that content? So one of the things we aim to do on our channel all the time is answer your questions where you're actually at through means of our live show, and that's the purpose of the show today. Now, throughout today's show, like I said, we are going to be sharing with you specific principles, a specific core principle, especially if you're a property investor, something that can help you move forward in terms of your property journey. But side by side with that, because we're aware of the current climate in property right now, what we also want to do, like I've said ample times, is answer your questions today. So without further ado, we're going to get jumped straight into today's session, and we're going to basically be able to tap into the opportunity that is currently in front of us. Okay, so there's a number of people who may understand that opportunity. Those of you who are part of our webinar that we ran last week, we're also going to be running a webinar this Friday coming up. So if you're interested in that, just go into the description. You will see the actual link in order for you to be a part of our webinar this Friday, where we're going to be sharing more about how you can basically take advantage in the current property climate. Now, there's a lot going on in the current climate. You know, some of the things that are going on, there's been a lot of changes to mortgage products. Okay, some of the mortgage lenders are actually shifting the kind of products that they're offering, and a number of the brokers I'm working with, they've reached out to me and they've said, look, Samuel, these are the differences, these are the variations that are taking place in regards to mortgage products. Side by side with that, we've got the government trying to influence the property market as well through means of a number of statements that have been released. Namely, one of the most well known that most people will know is Michael Gove making a statement about a week ago that property lenders should stop lending. Okay, so this is another statement that's going to have an effect on people in terms of the lending space and thus the buying space. So as an investor, this may have an effect on you and on your journey. So there's a number of things that are going on in the current climate, a number of statements being made, a number of highs and lows, and as a direct byproduct, these things can have an effect on your property journey. So before we go further, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. 3 things I'm going to say to you. If you are looking forward to the content that we are going to put out on today's live show, what I'd like you to do is hit the like button. And the reason I ask you to hit the like button is that's your way of telling YouTube this is going to be some great content. The second thing I'd like you to do, if you haven't already, is why don't you hit subscribe, become a part of the community. Okay, and you can do that by just pressing at the bottom left hand of the screen where you've got the little blue YouTube sign. If you click there, you'll be able to subscribe to the channel and keep notified of all the live shows we're going to do in the future, as well as the standard content. Now, the third thing I'd like you to do is write in the comments, I'm ready to go, if you're ready to go throughout this live show, so we can start getting straight into what we're going to be doing today. And to be honest with you, what I'm going to start by doing today is going into the content. Okay, and the reason I'm going to go into the content is because I want you guys to be ready to be able to take full advantage of the opportunity that is right in front of us in this current season in property. Okay, so just hit ready to go or type in ready to go in your comments so we can know that you're actually ready to go in the live chat. And then straight after you do that, we will basically jump straight into what we've got in store for today's session. So I hope you're ready to go. I can see the likes are popping up, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to some of those comments which are saying I'm ready to go, so we can jump straight in. Now, without further ado, like I said, we're going to have the phone line open very, very soon. We want people to call in. We want people to ask their questions so we can help them move forward in their journey. Okay, but without, like I said, further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about today's topic. Now, as I've mentioned, we're currently in a very interesting place in the property market. We're in a place right now where, there's so much that's been thrown in the air. People don't even know what to do right now. Okay, we've got, like I said earlier, we've got governments making statements. We've got mortgage providers shifting around kind of terms and conditions on what they're doing. We've got investors in many scenarios quite scared, to be honest with you. You know, we put out a video yesterday. Our Monday video that we released yesterday was about the two types of investors. Okay, and we were talking about the average investor, and we was also talking about the active investor, and then we added even a bonus investor. Okay, now this is the thing I want you guys to understand. There are active investors in the market, people that are going to be adamant on continuing to go on. All right, then equally you're going to get those people who are what we called in the video the accidental investors. Those people who they only make decisions based on what other people tell them, based on what other people show them, based on what other people create for them in terms of opportunities, etc. Now the issue when you've got these two types of investors is the active investor should understand what we're going to be talking about in today's topic. But not every investor understands what we're going to be talking about in today's topic. And the accidental investor 100% has no idea about the kind of things we're going to be talking about in today's topic. So what I want you guys to do, if you consider yourself an active investor, at some point, you know, maybe when this live stream is finished, I want you to go and watch that video. And if you like the video, put a like on it, hit the subscribe as well. But go and watch that video, the two types of investors, when we come off this live stream, so you can get a clear understanding of what we're talking about when we talk about an active investor versus an accidental investor, and then segueing into the value packed, the average investor. Now, the reason I'm premising today's show with that video that we released yesterday is because what I want you to actually understand is on that video, the concept we shared is going to basically make the difference between whether you're active right now or you're passive right now. It's going to make the difference as to whether you're out there actually still looking for deals, moving forward, acquiring opportunities, or whether you're the kind of person who's like, oh, you know what, I'm not touching anything to do with property right now. I can't touch anything to do with property. So I don't want to keep you guys anymore. I want to jump into the board. We'll do that in a moment, but let me just switch up so you guys can get ready, okay? And I'm going to share and introduce to you today's topic. So today's topic, guys, we're going to be speaking about the 3 keys in every sale, okay? So if you're taking notes, that's what you need to put as your heading, the 3 keys in every sale, okay? And when I'm talking about a sale, I'm talking about a SALE, okay? Sierra, Alpha, Lima, Echo. The 3 keys in every sale. Now, like I shared with you, if you're an active investor, you're probably familiar with what I'm talking about. Hopefully, you're familiar with what I'm talking about. But if you're brand new to property investing, you may have no idea what I'm talking about, okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the 3 keys to every sale. And not only am I going to break them down, I'm going to break them down in a way where you're going to clearly be able to understand how you can leverage these 3 keys as you move forward in your own property investing journey. Now, like I said, there's going to be a bunch of people right now in this current climate who are not attempting to tap into these 3 keys. Okay, there's going to be a bunch of people who have no idea how to tap into these 3 keys. And then there's going to be a small group of people who are going to be taking a full advantage of not only these 3 keys, but I'm also going to share with you how these keys actually work together. Okay, now the reason these 3 keys are important is because people that have been investing for a very long time are very well aware of these 3 keys. It's because of these 3 keys that they can actually take advantage in interesting markets, in markets where they change and most people say, no, I don't want to buy. One of the things I shared recently, this was on a Bible study that I was actually doing online. I was sharing about the investing principles of Warren Buffett. And one of the things I was saying is Warren Buffett's mantra from so many decades ago has been to do the opposite of what the herds do. So again, if you've seen the video on our channel, the obstacles and opportunities in property, in that video as well, we also speak about herd mentality. We speak about how there's so many people that herd along and do what everyone else is doing. And this is part of the reason why things like this live stream are vitally important, because as you jump on this live stream, as you call the number, as you use the access code, as you get your specific questions answered, you put yourself in a position where you're not following the herd. You're not just going to do what everyone else is going to do because of the news. Now, the reason this is important is because I remember last week, Tuesday on the live show, something really powerful happened. We had a number of callers call in. The majority of the callers who called in on the live show last week were calling in for predominantly rent-to-rent scenarios. And so many people who called in last week were talking about 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. And I remember saying to them on the call last week, guys, like, where have you got this 3 month number from? Like, are you just using the number 3 months because the government said there's a 3 month mortgage holiday, or they're requesting a 3 month mortgage holiday from lenders? Now, the reason this is important is because as an investor, you have to understand you shouldn't just be plucking numbers from the thin air or just taking numbers that are handed to you on a plate, because that puts you back into this whole realm of an accidental investor, because you're taking action based on what other people have shared with you and told you. And 9 times out of 10, when people do that, the people that are giving them that advice, they're not their coach. Those people are not their advisors. They're not in their power team. They're not people that they have decided will be people to influence their decisions, but yet they take the advice from these people. So again, I don't know why people do that, but people do that. So we're going to put the call-in number on the screen right now. So with the call-in number, you guys are going to be able to basically call in. Apologies. But with the call-in number, you guys are going to be able to call in using the access code. Let us know the questions you have so we can answer your specific questions, okay? And last week we had a number of calls. We had so many calls calling in last week. We wasn't even able, if I'm going to be honest, to tackle all of those questions. And then we had a number of questions come through the comment box on YouTube as well. And the reason why this was happening last week, and it's probably going to be the same this week, I'm just going to be transparent with you guys, is because so many people don't know what to do right now as it pertains to their property journey. So many people are kind of, if I just put it simply, lost. Okay, so many people are struggling, so many people are battling, so many people are kind of got their back against the wall. So as a direct result, they're looking for help. Okay, and this is part of the reason we said we're going to actually create the live show to take people's questions, because we don't want people struggling in the property field, especially when certain other people can come out and support them, give them answers, help them, say to them, you know what, let's strategize together. Okay, now guys, I'm saying this as my disclaimer, but also as a comment, because I want you guys to be aware of this. This is by no means my attempt to say I'm the guru and I know everything. No, it's not that. I'm just a person who has a heart for people. I want people to move forward. I've advocated property as a vehicle, as an industry for people to utilize to move forward for a number of years. And now that we're in a quite an interesting climate, I'm not feeling that some other people are feeling. So I'm standing up and saying I'm going to continue to help people even through this field. Okay, so again, like I said, you know, anything that is shared on this show, guys, you have to take it and deal with it as you decide to deal with it. Go and speak to your accountant, go speak to your financial advisor, go speak to the people that you are, you know, vouching for in terms of choosing to take their advice. Okay, we're just sharing views on this channel, which is for educational purposes, in order to encourage you and inspire you. But how you take this information is up to you, all right? And 9 times out of 10, people told me that the information we share is extremely helpful. So we're hoping that it's going to be extremely helpful for you as well. So if you've got the number, it's going across on the top right now. Take the telephone number, take the access code, utilize those features and call in. And like I said earlier, if you haven't hit like yet and you haven't hit subscribe yet, go hit like, go hit subscribe, and let's take your call-in questions and see how we can work with you moving forward. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to go on the board to show you guys the 3 keys to every sale, which is our key for today. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so this concept, guys, is a concept that I was taught a number of years ago. It's not a particularly complicated concept, but it's a concept that I don't see enough people utilizing to take advantage of, especially in the property market. Generally, the people I see who are really using this concept are people who what we might call our old school investors, because they understand this metric. So I'm going to break it down for you and then you'll see. So we call this the 3 keys to every sale. And the reason why is because they are related in every sale. Every kind of sale, whether you're buying a car, whether you're buying a house, wherever you're buying, these 3 keys are relevant, okay? And these are the 3 keys. Very, very simple things, okay? The 3 keys are this. The first key I'm going to share with you guys is money, okay? And that's a key that most people are already thinking about. That's the reason why I start with that one. Okay, it's the one that comes to most people's mind. When you're talking about a sell, selling a product or buying a product, money usually comes in. We can call this cost, we can call this value. There's a number of different words we can put here. Okay, the cost of the opportunity, the value of the opportunity, or money. Okay, cash, collateral, money, credit, etc. The second key to each and every sell, okay, which a lot of people do not think about but which is vital, is speed. Okay, now you can call that time, timing, etc. Okay, but speed is a second key to every sell. Okay, and the third key, which is again is very very important, but people forget a lot of it, forget it a lot of the time, is confidence. Confidence. Okay. Okay, and sometimes you can call this credibility. Okay, and a bunch of other words. All right, now why are these three things important? This is why these three things are important. Each and every one of these three categories, money, time, and confidence, okay, plays a part in every single transaction and every single sale. So I'm going to break that down to you. So let's say this is a scale. Okay, this is a scale with three potential weights. Okay, in this kind of climate, one of the things people are not going to be aware of, which is vitally important for this climate, is that in most climates, people stipulate that money is the number one, the cost, the value, the money is the number one weight in terms of the scales they're dealing with. So what does that mean? What that means is if you're going to buy a house, 9 times out of 10, the seller is only interested in the amount of money they can get. So they will push you for the most amount of money. They will push you so you pay the most cost. You have to pay the most value. You have to give the most amount of money in order to acquire that asset. Now, what generally tends to happen in climates like this is people may have the money to buy the asset, but there is a certain level of circumstantial situation which allows those people now to no longer value the money as much as they value other things. So for example, right now we're in a place, it's slightly starting to shift, but you're going to see it more in the next couple of weeks, days, months. But we're in a place right now where money is no longer going to be the number one characteristic for people who are really keen to sell property. And what's going to happen is that's going to shift to one of these two things. Okay, it can be either or, it doesn't really matter. But what matters is the fact that it will shift. Now when it shifts out of money, it's going to end up that we're going to end up having either time, or we might have confidence being the primary factor for sellers. Now, why is this important? The reason it's important is right now, whilst money may be the most important, or 2 weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago, when money was the most important, the challenge with that for most people is, hold on a minute, because I want money, I don't care if you take a bit longer to buy the property. And I'm not really too bothered if you can or cannot complete. I'll take the estate agent's word and just assume that anyone who comes and says they want to buy can buy. Okay, but now when you're in a very volatile climate, what generally tends to happen is people will take less money. Okay, so let's put it this way. I'm going to break some things down for you guys to actually see exactly what I'm talking about. Let's say in most climates, money's number one. Okay, and then time is second. And then third, there's confidence. Okay, what that means is they want so much money, they don't mind how long it takes, and they couldn't even care less who they're selling to. Now, in a climate like we got right now, this may happen. There may be a complete inversion. Okay, a complete inversion where now we care who we're selling to. We only want to sell to investors because we want to make sure we sell. We want to have confidence that the person who's buying is credible. So we want to make sure that we can sell. And then time becomes second. I.e., look, we've only got this amount of time to get rid of this property opportunity. So we really need to make sure that it's sold within that time. And that again relates to credibility. And then third, we'll take a hit on the cash. We'll take less money if we can be confident that these people will complete in a certain amount of time. So sometimes what I do with my team, I actually use this as a sentence. I will say, can we create enough confidence so we can complete in a certain time frame so that we can offer less on the actual acquisition? Okay, so guys, I want you to be mindful of this, because the order that your seller is actually thinking of this, or your landlord, if you're doing rent to rent, like so many of the callers last week, the order your seller or landlord is thinking about this is going to have a direct correlation on what you're going to be able to secure and how you're going to be able to secure it. Okay. And those of you who were on our webinar last week, you will have some insights into this. Those of you who sign up for the webinar on Friday, again, you'll get some more insights into this. So this is the kind of stuff that I've been helping people understand in this climate, how they can still take advantage. All right. So we're going to go and take some callers, hopefully. Okay, guys. So I'm going to jump into the caller system, see if we got callers on. Okay, and also I'm going to open up for the YouTube comments. If there's anyone who's got any comments on the stuff we just shared, excuse me, feel free to write your comments in so we can basically have a look at them and help you with that as well. All right. Excellent. Okay. So, guys, feel free to put your comments in. Let me know if you got any questions about the things we've been speaking about. We got one caller who's in right now. Let me take this caller, 3054. Hello, hello, caller 3054. Hi, I can hear you. Who am I speaking with? Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Who am I speaking with? Yep. Okay, perfect. So we've got a caller who's called in. This is Noemi, and Noemi's asked the question. I'm just going to repeat the question, Noemi, because this week we haven't got you on the actual system. Are you happy for me to kind of share the question you've asked me with the viewers? All right, cool. No problem. All right, so basically, Noemi's asked the question, if you're structuring a purchase lease option in this current climate, when will you actually be able to help the landlord, i.e., take the property off of their hands? Okay, is that a good summary of the question? Yeah. All right, perfect. Noemi, Noemi, do something for me. Yeah. Remember that I'm on the phone to you, so just stay on the phone. Don't worry about the YouTube. The best thing to do is to mute YouTube and just speak to me on the phone. Does that help? Yeah. All right, cool. So basically, Noemi's question was, how can you seriously help a landlord right now or a homeowner who's trying to sell if, for example, the climate is how the climate is and you're going to structure, for example, a purchase lease option? Now, this is what I would say to you, Noemi. The first key to all of this is about your power team. The reason why it's about your power team is because your power team is going to stipulate what you can and cannot offer. Does that make sense? All right. So cool. So the reason I'm saying that is for a very simple reason. So I'm going to break that down to you so you see it kind of a bit clearer. Now, your specific power team, let's say your solicitor, for example, your solicitor is the person who's generally going to draft your contract, especially if you're doing something like a purchase lease option. Your solicitor is going to draft that contract up. They're going to draw it up. They're going to send it to you. You're going to review it. You're going to come back. You're going to basically dialogue about whether the right terms and conditions are inside of it. Now, there's a number of things you can do creatively in order to structure something appropriate for the landlord. One of those things, and I'm just going to share one just because of the fact it's a live stream, etc., is you can put into place a rolling takeover on the actual purchase lease option. So a rolling takeover, again, your solicitor is going to have to draw that up for you, speak to your solicitor about whether they know how to do it and if they can do that. But the rolling rolling takeover, the way that basically works is you will have a start date for your purchase lease option. You will have an end date for your purchase lease option. And both of those things are things people should be familiar with. But then you can have a rolling takeover, i.e., we will be paying X amount of rent. So you can choose the amount. That will be your monthly lease fee. And then your monthly lease fee can increase after a rolling period of time, after a set period of time, due to certain metrics. So you might have in the contract, when we're able to acquire full tenancy on the property, which doesn't have to be a time limit, but that is a criteria. For example, the contract will shift. So it will shift from we're paying £200 a month, which might be the current mortgage on the property. So the landlord is just breaking even right now, or the owner is just breaking even right now. But the moment you get to a position where you're fully tenanting the property, if you're shifting it to a HMO or whatever else, then you'll convert from a £200 payment a month up to a £800 payment a month, for example. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, like I said, there's several different things you can do similar to what I'm talking about, but this is just one example of what you can structure. Okay. So, we call that a rolling takeover. That's where you basically have a start date for your lease option, like most people would have. You have an end date for your lease option, which is supposed to be the day you have to execute by. So, let's say that's 5 years or 7 years in the future. But then what you also implement is a rolling date, i.e., that could be based on a time frame. You can just say, like, going back to what I was mentioning about all the callers from last week saying, oh, 3 months, 3 months. If you want to take that risk, you can say in 3 months' time, we're going to shift from the £200 or the initial lease fee to a secondary lease fee. Or if you want, what you can actually ask your solicitor to do, instead of shifting based on a time frame, you can shift based on a characteristic or criterion. So that particular characteristic or criterion might be at the full occupancy of the property, 30 days after full occupancy of the property, or after a specific significant thing that might take place, which you may be waiting for. Yeah? Okay. Is that helpful? All right, cool. Any other questions, Noemi, before I let you go? Smart lady. Yes. So Noemi's just said that she assumes it will be a very similar setup for a rent to rent as well. And I've said, yeah, you could establish the same kind of contract for a rent to rent. Some of my coaching clients, I'm teaching them something a little bit different, slightly different, in terms of that. But yes, like the general framework could work also for a rent to rent. Also, the key with this, if I'm going to be totally honest with you, Noemi, and those of you that are viewing on YouTube, it's about thinking about the strength of your power team. This is where most people go wrong in property. Okay, most people in property just think about what they can do. They don't think about what their power team are able to do. And the reason why is because most people in property don't actually think about their property power team. Most people in property do not invest in having a coach. They don't invest in having the right solicitor. They're just using any solicitor anytime. Sometimes they don't really invest in having the right brokers around them and all the other key players you can have in a power team. So this is why what we're speaking about is so powerful, because if you have the right power team in place, the right power team will position you to be in a predicament where basically you can start doing stuff which you yourself on your own might not have been aware of. So you might say, okay, look, I've got a coach, I've got this predicament, I'm going to go speak to my coach about it. So obviously, because I coach a number of people, I'm in that place a lot of the time where people are asking me, look, Samuel, what do you think about this? I was planning to do this, but what do you think about this? So just being in that space where you basically have an outside voice that can support you, or an outside voice that can give you some value and insight, all of those things become extremely helpful to set you up to do other things. And again, it's not just about your coach. This goes further than that. In terms of what I'm talking about, this relates also, like I was saying, to your solicitor, to your broker, to all of the key players around you in terms of your power team. So the real key in this is about having that ecosystem of people around you who can support you, so that you're not just thinking one dimensional about the current climate. One of the biggest issues, and again, Noemi, this is part of the reason why we're doing these live streams, because these live streams are absolutely free, but they're giving people an opportunity to get an outside voice on what they're actually doing, rather than to just be thinking, look, the one idea I have is the only idea I have, and it's the only thing I can do. because to be honest with you guys, that's not the truth. The one idea you have is the only idea you have. But if you go and connect with the right coach, if you go and connect with the right solicitor, if you go and connect with the right people and the right ecosystem, you can have 7, 8, 9, 10, 100, 1,000 different ideas, and all of those can really shift you into the next level. So hopefully that helps, Noemi. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. All right, what we're going to do right now, thank you for the call, Noemi. Really appreciate that call. We're going to jump right now onto the comments. We're going to see who's in on the comments to see what they're saying. Let me turn this down so I'm not distracted by that. All right, guys. So just quickly, we've got another call coming in. Just quickly, guys, if you haven't hit the like button, hit that like button. All right, hit the like button. Let them know that, let the YouTube world know that this is some good content. All right, so excellent, excellent, excellent. Let's just go through the comments ready quickly. Ready to go, ready to go, ready to go, ready to go, ready to go. Okay. Joined a little late. Not sure if you have covered the government HMRC packages for sole traders during the current climate. All right, Jennifer, we're not going to be covering those particular predicaments because we're focusing 100% on property. All right, we're focusing 100% on property. But like I said, we've got the call-in number going on the top of the screen. If you have any specific property questions, feel free to ask or feel free to call in using the access code above, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions as it pertains to property, whether it's property acquisition, whether it's your current portfolio, you're looking at doing a restructure, you just want someone else's eyes on it or someone else's feedback and insight on it, let us know. Feel free to send your comments through. All right, guys. So Noemi's question was a fantastic question for several different reasons, okay? Because if you take Noemi's question and then you side by side connect Noemi's question, excellent. If you take Noemi's question and side by side connect Noemi's question to what we're talking about here with the 3 keys to every sale, Noemi's still thinking about acquiring at this time. And if you are thinking about acquiring at this time, all of the things we just mentioned are going to be extremely crucial to you being able to do that. All right, we've got another caller coming in. I'm just going to try and take the second caller's call. Have they hung up already? I think they've hung up already. Okay, so the second caller, if you want to call back, you can call back. You'll only get some hold music for a little while until we take your call live. So again, anyone else who wants to call in, feel free to call in and we'll be happy to take your call in question. All right, now Jennifer's basically commented that what she's talking about is for within property. And she's basically saying that in regards to the HMRC packages for sole traders during the current climate. Now, basically, if I touch on this, what I would prefer each and every person to do, going back to my statement a moment ago, which Rose has also commented on, saying the power team is very important. Your power team are going to play a crucial part in terms of you understanding how you take those specific support packages from the HMRC and from the government at this time. Now, the reason I'm saying this, I really hope you understand this, is because people forget that everyone's predicament is different. Okay, every single investor's predicament is different. If you're a property investor, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, and you haven't gone and seen the video we released yesterday about the active investor, the accidental investor, and the average investor, go and watch that video so you can start to understand your particular predicament. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because of this specifically. There are some people who work a full-time job, they have a full-time salary and income, and then they have property on the side. And because they have property on the side, their revenue is a particular way. There's going to be some people who are making more money from property than they make from their full-time job, but they still have those two revenues. Then you're going to have the group of people who make more money from their full-time job than they do from property. Okay, so that's two different dichotomies of people just in terms of two different frameworks. That's the one job plus the property income. Then you've got a whole nother world of people that are not working full-time jobs because their general revenue is created by property. Okay, and then you've got a whole another world of people who are doing controlled strategies, like people that are doing rent to rent and other strategies like that. So as a direct byproduct, they're not necessarily generating revenue through means of this same way. So as a direct result, the point I want to make for you guys to understand all of this is that when you're asking questions specifically about the HMRC and the government's rollout for sole traders, it's different for different people, because some people have a property business, and inside of their property business, they're not going to be able to acquire the revenues or the benefits that have been given out for sole traders versus those that are given out for directors and employees. All right, so guys, go check with your accountants. Like I said, your property power team is very important, and think about it like that. All right, we're jumping on to the next caller. The next caller is 771. 771. Caller number 771. Can you hear me? Hi, your volume is really, really low. Actually, that's my fault because I turned it down. All right, who am I speaking with? Hi, Shalina. How you doing? Excellent. I'm doing very, very well. Thank you for calling and for asking. Let me ask you this: have you hit subscribe? Have you hit like? All right, all right. Shalina said she has hit subscribe and she has hit like. All right, excellent. So, Shalina, what is your question? Let me know your question. Okay, that's right. Yep, yep. That's amazing. All right, that's a powerful question. All right, guys, listen. Before I reiterate Shalina's question, let me say this to you: if you have not hit like and you have not hit subscribe, go do that now, because Shalina's question alone is going to cause me to drop a whole bunch of value bombs. All right, so just go hit like, hit subscribe. So let's jump into it. Shalina's question, and Shalina, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, if I'm summarizing well or not. Okay, Shalina asks a powerful question. Shalina says, "Look, right now we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, and as a direct result, the clientele that certain people may have been targeting before may be completely different in terms of their predicament to tomorrow, okay, or after all of this goes on. So as an example, Shalina's basically saying that most people are being advised from the investor perspective to just be in a preparation mode, to be kind of preparing for when all of this changes, etc., so that they can hit the ground running when it all comes back to normal. And Shalina's question at the end of all of that context is, Samuel, what are you doing? What's your thoughts on that? And what would you advise kind of your coaching clients or the people that are working with you to do moving forward? Is that a good summary, Shalina? All right, she says it's a perfect summary. All right, cool. So listen, guys, the first thing I want to do is touch Shalina's point about people being advised to kind of double down, prepare, and all of that right now. Look, guys, the first thing is, do not do that. Okay? Or even let me go deeper. Do not do that alone. Okay, what do I mean by do not do that slash do not do that alone? Look, if let me help you understand something. There's a well-known saying in the personal development world. That saying is, how you do anything is how you do everything. You've heard that before, Shalina? All right, cool. Those of you watching, let me know. Put in the comments, have you heard that before? Okay, how you do anything is how you do everything. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want you to understand, if you have a climate where things are rapidly changing and all you do is close your door, get into a book or get on an online course and prepare alone without actually taking any action, without actually trying anything new, without actually giving things a shot or giving things a go, the problem with that is you're practicing a habit. You're starting to practice a habit which you might have actually been practicing before. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because I know there's a whole bunch of people that watch my YouTube videos, that that follow me in that general sense, who are new to property, who are just trying to start in property, or who have small or limited size portfolios. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because what I want you to understand is that group of people need to learn how to take action. They don't need to learn how to keep preparing, if that makes sense. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that to say taking action is just doing anything, because taking action is not doing anything. But I've got this statement, a slogan, my own quote that I've been saying for years. And that quote is action begets action. You got to do something to force you to do something else. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. So the reason I'm saying that is I do not want to encourage anybody who's watching this live stream, watching the replay, calling in on the phone with questions. I don't want to encourage anybody to be the kind of person who's out here thinking, yeah, this whole period is just about, reading more books about property or just jumping on more courses. Like, if you're jumping on a course, jump on a course with a coaching component, on a course with a component where you can mastermind, on a course with a component where you can talk to other peers and ask them what kind of success are they getting right now in the current climate, and share with them the kind of success you're getting in the current climate, and ask them questions like what Noemi was just asking. Like, Noemi's question, in my opinion, was a very productive question, because she was on our webinar last week Friday. Last week Wednesday, when we ran the webinar. So, again, for those of you who don't know, what we're doing out here on the webinars this week, we're going to have a webinar on Friday. It's going to help you exactly the same way. It's going to show you some keys, how you could take advantage in the current climate. So that's why the quality of her question was so rich, because she understands the foundation that we've kind of laid through means of that webinar. All right. So if you're interested in that webinar, go in the description, guys. You can sign up, register for that webinar. It's going to be on Friday, 7 p.m. and you can learn more about the keys to take advantage. Now, coming back to your question, Shalina, the first thing from the context I'd say is don't be a person who's only going to prepare right now. That's the first thing, okay? The second thing is this. Your primary question, your main question was, Samuel, what are you doing right now in light of all of this? What's your thoughts right now in light of all this? These are my thoughts. This is my honest, transparent thoughts, and this is what I'm doing. I'm doing the same thing I've always been doing. I'm targeting motivated sellers. I hope that makes sense, yeah? Now, the reason I'm saying that, Shalina, so strongly and so boldly is because if anybody understands what I shared today in terms of the lesson, the principle, the 3 keys to every sale. I don't know, Shalina, was you on the live stream when I was going through that? Yeah. So when I broke down about the 3 keys to every sale, the reason why that's important is because people who work with motivated sellers understand that concept. They understand that for most people, money, cost, value is the most important thing for them when they're trying to sell a property. But for some people who, for example, are going through a divorce, or who, for example, want to migrate to another country, or who, for example, have just been made redundant, money stops being the most important thing, especially if you bought a house for 100,000 and now the market value is 400,000. Like, 50,000, 10,000, 20,000 is not really that much in the grand scheme of things. Okay, but to someone who bought a house at 400,000 and now, as a direct byproduct, the market's tanked, for example, and now that house is only worth 300,000, money may be very important to them because they're already losing 100 grand just because of the negative equity position. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the key in all of this, Shalina, is understanding who your actual target market is in the first place. Okay. For some very sophisticated investors, their target market has not changed. The only thing that has changed because of this climate is their target market as a population has now increased. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you mentioned something a moment ago, Shalina, which is actually vitally important. You spoke about redundancy. You said there's some people right now who have been made redundant as a result of the climate. And I'm totally in agreement with you. So the reality is some of those people, not all of them, okay, but some of those people who've been made redundant as a result of the current climate are going to now be in a position where selling one of their buy-to-let properties makes sense to them in order for them to rearrange, rejig, change their life. And again, going back to the 3 keys to every sale, money might not be the most important thing to them. Because of the redundancy, they may now actually be more interested in the speed it takes to sell the property than the amount of money they get for selling the property. Does that make sense? Yep, 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 yep. Yep. All right, perfect. So Shalina's just added to her question and basically said, what about specifically for tenants who now are not working in the same predicaments or positions that they were working in previously. Okay. And I think, again, I think that's a fantastic question, a great segue into what we're going to do, or what we're going to answer with that as well. So with regards to tenants, I'm going to say something very, very simple. Okay. And, some people might not agree with this. Okay. And I've already heard people in the property space kind of sharing with me that they don't agree with this kind of notion. And that's cool, because I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me. I don't even really want everybody to agree with me, if I'm going to be totally honest with you. But this is what I'd say to you. With regards to tenants, what you have to do is you have to work with them. Okay. And the reason I'm saying you have to work with them is because they're your clients. And I'm going to keep it really real with you. We shouldn't have to wait for the government to start saying there's going to be an eviction ban for us to say, I'm not going to evict any tenants during this period. Does that make sense? Again, this goes back to what I was saying on the live stream last week, Tuesday. Last week, Tuesday's live show, I said the exact same thing. Where is 3 months come from? 3 months is a number you're plucking out of the air because the government said 3 months. And it's the same thing. Why are now people acting like, oh, I'm not going to evict my tenants? But you should be able to make certain decisions as a direct byproduct of the current climate. If you have a tenant who's been made redundant, how are you working with them? That's what I'd say to you. How are you working with them? What are you putting in place to help them? Because think of it like this. And this, again, is just me being very, very transparent, but me thinking longer term. Okay. If you've got a tenant that's currently paying £500 a month for a room. And again, guys, I deal generally with HMOs. That's why I'm speaking from a HMO world. If you've got a tenant who's paying £500 for a room, and again, if you're doing single lets, just assume that this £500 is for a house. Okay. Now, this person's been made redundant, or they're not getting any work. And as a direct byproduct, they can't pay the £500 every month. Now, let me ask you this. In 8 months, 9 months, 12 months, when all of this blows over, is that tenant going to be intending to stay in your property, in your room, or in your house without paying rent? Because there was an eviction ban 8 months, 12 months, 6 months ago? The answer is no. Most human beings, even though they don't cut their coat according to their size, if you guys understand that saying, most human beings still try to live within the revenue that they understand they have, even though they don't do that properly. So I'll give you an example. When I first started running my networking events, I got a real big eye opener, because we used to have a letting agent, an amazing guy, James Davis. He was the CEO of UPAD. And UPAD at the time was the largest online letting agency. And one of the things James taught me was a tenant paying any rent should only be paying 30% of their average income. So if they're in a sales job where they get a fixed salary as well as a bonus, you can't be taking 30% of the fixed plus the bonus, because the bonus isn't guaranteed every month. But they should be paying 30% of the standard income. Now, if you go across the country, if you go across Europe, if you go across the world, what you see is in different nations, that is actually skewed. In the UK, that's heavily skewed, because the income has not tracked the property price, and thus the rental rates. Okay, so you don't get necessarily a fixed relationship between what people are earning as salaries and what people are paying as rent. So although that is slightly skewed, that gives you at least a framework to work within. So when I say a framework to work within, what I'm talking about is, well, hold on a minute. You've got 30% of your income which should be going to this salary. That should be going to this rental. So because 30% should be going to the rental, what that means is you should have an additional 70% of disposable income. So the point I'm trying to make is, if we think about this whole thing long term, okay, long term, your tenant is either going to get another job, okay, get no job, okay, or get a job which doesn't necessarily generate as much income. And those 3 scenarios are 3 basic scenarios which you as a landlord or as an investor can plan towards. You can say, well, look, you've lost your job, so this is what we're going to do in the time period, i.e. we're going to reduce your rent, and then when your rent is able to go back to normal, we'll add on top the reduction amount. Okay, so that's one thing you can do. Okay, I've got a tenant, we're currently discussing doing that. Okay, but then equally, you might have other tenants. I had a tenant reach out to me and say something very interesting. The lady's specific comment was, I don't think it's right to use my savings to pay rent. And I said to her, I appreciate that you may not think it's right to use your savings to pay rent, but what I want you to understand is if you are saying to me that you want to create some kind of a payment plan, i.e. pay 50% of your rent for the next 5-6 months and then pay an additional 50, so 150% rent for the next 5-6 months after that, then why couldn't you easily just use your savings to pay the 50% decrease and then in 5-6 months use the incremental rent you would have paid to pay me to replenish your savings? Does that make sense? Yeah. So the point I'm making, I'm not saying, say that again. Good question. All right. Now we haven't got to a place. Okay. So Shalina asked the question, was that specific tenant open to that? Okay. And let me give you context so you understand where she was coming from. This specific tenant is a tenant in a HMO who has no problems with her work. She's got no problems with paying the rent. She hasn't missed a payment, okay? But she was just asking me, what have I put in place if, for example, something would happen to her workplace? And that's where she shared that she wouldn't want to use her savings to pay her rent. And that's when I shared my rebuttal. Okay, so she's not in a predicament where she necessarily needs to go down the route of, yes, I will do that, or no, I won't do that. But she was just basically troubleshooting, finding out, okay, what could be the options if she was in that predicament, because she knows other people in the HMO have that predicament and she doesn't currently. So yeah, so I can't answer whether she was open to that or not, because she didn't have to answer that question because she's not in that position. But the point I want to make to you guys is that, like I say all the time, especially to my coaching clients, like, everything's up for negotiation, guys. Everything's up for negotiation. You don't have to, oh, the government said 3 months. Okay, I got to give you 3 months off rent. No, like, if you're, like, and look, guys, let me say this so I can be transparent. If you are getting a mortgage holiday, then give the tenants a rent holiday. That's what I would say. That is me. Okay, that's my view on it. Because if you don't have to pay, why should they? That's me. I'm not telling everyone to follow my lead, but I'm just telling you that's how I operate, because I like to run a transparent ship. But at the same time, before we even get to mortgage holidays, what I want you to understand is you can negotiate. You can negotiate with the tenants and say to the tenants, look, let's do it this way. Rather than you paying half the rent, pay 70% of the rent. Like, it doesn't have to just be whatever they pluck out of the air. And that's the same with your tenants, and that's the same with new acquisitions, i.e. sellers and landlords. All right? So I hope that helps, Shalina, and I hope we've answered your question. You're welcome. God bless you too. And feel free to share this YouTube video with other people as well so they can move forward in their property journey. All right, excellent. So that was another fantastic call. Thank you, Shalina, for calling in. All right, guys. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up. Okay, we're going to open up the opportunity to go through a few of the comments and give you guys some Q&A with a few of the comments. We're coming closer to 1 hour since we've been streaming. So if you haven't hit the like button, hit that like. If you haven't hit subscribe, press the bell notification so you can stay up to date with all our live streams as we drop them, as well as our videos. So going into the comments, we've got, I've heard of that saying, thanks. Okay, beautiful. So Rose has an amazing comment here. Rose basically says, waiting and doing nothing causes you to lose out on opportunities. I totally agree with that, Rose. Excuse me. Excellent. Yeah, so Rose, I totally agree with that. And I just want to give a shout out to Jennifer Lon. Jennifer's comment, again, is another powerful comment. She writes here, here, good landlords work with good tenants to meet their needs pre-COVID-19. I'm going to add something to that. Good landlords work with good tenants to produce good outcomes, okay, in a good world, all right? So the reason I'm sharing that is because I want you guys to understand it's not only about what can I get. It's not gimme, Jimmy, all right? You need to be a person who's giving as well, because as you give as well, you get as well. And that's the way the world works. All right, guys, so we're getting closer to an hour. One of the things I want to do before we wrap up is I want to share with you guys a key resource, okay? And you guys know me, you know, I'm always out here trying to add extra value to the community. So as a direct result, I'm going to do exactly that by showing you that our featured resource this week is a resource everybody should have. And if you don't have this resource, then you gotta go and get the resource. All right, so what we're basically doing is we are offering you the free audiobook of Rich Dad Poor Dad through Amazon. All right, so if you go on the link on the screen, you can go and get that free audiobook right now. impactproperties.co.uk/Rich Dad. Okay, so that's the Rich Dad audiobook, absolutely free when you take a free trial of Audible. And if you decide to cancel the trial, you decide you don't want to be with Audible before the 30 days, you pay nothing and you still keep the book. Now, the reason we've got Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki as our featured resource this week is for something really simple. It's because of the simple fact that not enough people seem to understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Okay, now guys, if you understand the difference between an asset and a liability, right now what you'll be doing is hedging your assets. Okay, because we're in a current climate where your assets that you've retained prior to this climate, you may need to hedge. But side by side with that, when you understand the difference between an asset and a liability, another thing that you're going to be doing right now is actually attempting to acquire more assets. Okay, but the key is to understand what an asset is. All right, an asset is any kind of resource that is generating income for you without taking revenue necessarily away from you. And a liability is basically the converse of that. Now, the issue is so many people have a faulty understanding of what an asset is. So when we get into climates like now, they're running. They're not taking opportunities. I believe it was Rose who said in one of her comments a moment ago that if you do not do anything, if you fail to act right now, you're losing an opportunity. And I'm going to agree with Rose. Okay, if you are not going to take action in this current season, what you're going to do is you're going to miss out on the opportunity to move forward in your property journey. One of my coaches I was talking with the other day, I said to her something really powerful. I said, imagine if you come out of this climate with a portfolio of 4 properties, but you went into the climate with 1 property or even no properties. How would you feel about that? Imagine if in 6 to 9 months, all of this stuff is changed. It's all different. It's back to how it was, or it's even a whole new world, if you put it that way. But imagine if in that whole new world, you got 4 assets generating you income rather than the 0 assets you've got right now. All right, guys, and that's the reason why we're running this webinar on Friday. So if you haven't already registered, or at least click the link in the description, go to the description, go hit the link. I think it's like the second link in there, and get into the webinar on Friday, okay? Because we're going to be sharing 3 keys that you can use in order to take advantage in this current climate. And guys, I want to help people move forward in this climate. I see too many people in this climate being fearful, lacking understanding, not knowing what to do, and I want to help them by giving them at least an indication of what can be done in this climate in order for them to get massive value. So guys, without further ado, that brings us to the end of today's live show. It's been absolutely fantastic having the callers on that we've had on, and I hope you guys have got absolutely massive value from this live stream. If you have, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and why don't you